Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. My name is Tom Dutta, and I am your host. And we're going to introduce you to our guest. You can see him on screen there from the green room. But before I do that, I just want to say we're live streaming here. And what is live streaming? Well, it's the next generation of podcasting. We're live across LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. It's exciting. You can watch us. If you're on the feeds, you can communicate with us by sending us a text in the chat. And by the way, give this a subscribe. Subscribe to the feed, particularly the Tom Dutta YouTube channel. That allows us to honor our guest show and do more of these amazing shows. Let me introduce you to our guest today, everybody. He is an award-winning international speaker, a best-selling author, a licensed professional clinical counselor. His brightest lights in his life are two daughters. He's a road cycling endurance athlete. He's a little bit Dutch, a little bit English, from California, USA. Today, an epic show in some epic times. Welcome, Zander Sprague.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's great to be here. I'm so excited.
I am excited too. And you and I were just riffing before we went online here that's why I said it's an epic show in epic times. I'd like you to join me and the audience in just a moment of silence for the people in Ukraine. I'm just going to put their flag up here. Let's all just close our eyes, bow, and say a little prayer for these people. Okay, thank you for doing that, Zander. Everybody, before we get rolling here, it's amazing when I do my shows. There's sometimes we do a show and there's a timestamp on it that really we can never change. And I remember doing my first show, Zander, when the coronavirus hit and the world started going into lockdown, and that was timestamped. But today is extraordinary, man. Just like you are when we get into your story. I didn't think in my lifetime I would see what's happening in Europe today. Why don't we just start out before we get into your story? Just tell us how you're feeling and about all that. Anything you want to say?
Well, it's interesting, Tom. I majored in history in university, and so I guess I have an appreciation. So when I look at this, the word unprecedented comes to mind for me about how could this happen? How could this be happening? I was in, it was interesting, when I was in university, I was taking a course on German history, and it was 1989, and everything was happening with the Soviet Union dissolving. And as we were talking about, would the wall come down? Would the wall not come down? The professor's like, I don't think so. And finally the professor said, look, for my own professional dignity, I'm not going to say anything because I have no idea what's going on,
Yeah.
And so I look at this and say, what's going on? It's crazy. I thought we were kind of past people invading, sovereign nations like this.
Absolutely.
And I'm not even sure why. Why? So.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Everybody, we're with Zander Sprague. He's here. And your nickname that came up through my research was the God of Enthusiasm. And one of the things that I really appreciated about that today, and I did read the book we're going to talk about, I loved your book, man, is that, when I watch some of those images and stories of the people in Ukraine, there's this, the current president there, Zelensky, there's this massive sense of enthusiasm and pride, patriotism for the country. And you were telling me as we came online that you're an endurance athlete. Well, it's amazing that when you can get your mindset in the right place and you can hook on to a purpose, something beyond yourself, you can fight. You can be David and Goliath. And I just think it's a story we'll be talking about for a long time. Well, let's get into you, man, the god of enthusiasm. Everybody, I found Zander and I brought him on the show for a couple reasons. We're going to reveal a 5-star review for the book you've written. Can you hold it up there? I'm going to full screen
Oh,
you for a
sure.
second. All right. It's read out the title to us.
It's Epic begins with one step forward, how to plan, achieve, and enjoy the journey.
Pretty amazing. And so I want to get into, because we're about storytelling, get into your backstory and sort of the journey from being a young boy and, how you got to, we all came into the world with nothing in our thought patterns, and then we evolved. So just take us back. Where did you start? Tell us about the man growing up as a boy.
Absolutely. Well, I was born in Massachusetts, grew up outside of Boston. And interesting enough, my father was a state legislator in Massachusetts. So I grew up campaigning with him. And I think that was really formative for my becoming a public speaker, because I was in front of adults as, a 5-year-old kid. I learned how to interact with adults. I found that I actually really like being in front of people and talking to people. As I went through school, I seemed to really like when we got to do oral presentations and when I got to share knowledge. So I think another thing that I discovered was I'm a teacher. I love to help other people learn things. I went to college in Southern California at Pitzer College. I majored in history and psychology. And I went out into the work world, worked in the corporate world for 20 years doing stuff that I would never have believed I would have done. I was a quality assurance engineer, a software engineer. And let me just say about being a software engineer, I worked incredibly hard to be mediocre, and I wanted more out of my life. So I transitioned into doing technical instruction. So I taught people how to use software, and I did that for 17 years and really enjoyed it. And having worked, I moved from Boston out to San Francisco in 1999. I worked for startups, small startups, medium-sized startups, big Fortune 100 companies. I was teaching. I really enjoyed it. But when I got laid off for the umpteenth time, downsized, reduced in force, whatever you want to call it.
I want to just throw out I didn't coin this phrase, but when I went through my first big downsizing as a corporate guy, somebody said we're fueling your future. And that's the first time. That's the first time I went, what a bunch of crap. But then I realized, you know what, that's part of it, right? It opens up doors.
It is. And through all of those experiences, it really helped make me who I am, where it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There is that disappointment of working hard and stuff. Being a technical instructor, unfortunately, we were usually the last hired and the first fired because people didn't realize the immense value that we brought. Super quick side story about being a technical instructor. I was really what I call a zero-sum employee. What I mean is people were paying for training. So if I was doing two 3-day trainings a month, okay, with and I had 10 students in that room, by March or April, the money that had been paid covered everything, my salary, my benefits, everything. And then the rest of the year when I was teaching, I was actually just making money. So that's why I said I was a zero-sum employee. It didn't cost them anything. I was actually replenishing what they were paying me.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, thanks for the sharing of the history there. I wrote some notes here on my pad about engineering, and I started thinking about from brain science the way your brain might be wired, analytical, technical, natural teacher. We're learning a lot about you here. And yet there's this enthusiasm. Everybody check it out, the big smile. There's this enthusiasm coming out of you. So I want to go back again just to the journey through childhood and then into your youth and into the career.
Sure.
The mom and dad and the family. Were you raised a happy kid? Was everything, did you have a good home? I mean, just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I did. I mean, my parents were married for 51 years. My dad passed away a few years ago. My mom is still alive.
Sorry to hear.
I had a older sister and a younger sister. We'll get into my older sister, I'm sure, in just a few minutes. But yeah, I was happy. I did where I grew up was in the country. I had woods to go play in. My parents' house backed up to a town forest of like 400 acres. So I had all kinds of fun. My best friend lived on a farm. I did all kinds of crazy stuff. My best friend, whose farm I went to, is still my best friend. We've been best friends our whole entire life. And we were just talking like 2 nights ago about how it's a miracle that the both of us are still here, because the crazy stuff that we did, that we didn't end up like killing ourselves.
Okay, hold on. You're gonna have to. I got to jump in. Tell us one of those crazy things.
Well, okay, so one of those things was near his house was this sort of a water tower up on this hill, and there was a rock face, and we decided we want to climb up the rock face, and we're using baling twine as rope, and we're going up.
Oh my gosh.
And when I went back when I was like a teenager, and I looked, and there's like these really big sharp rocks, I'm like, if we had fallen, we could have been really hurt, or we could have died.
That's how old were you back then?
Oh, when I was doing that, I was probably like 6 or 7.
Yeah. See, that's what the beauty is of the what do you call the irrational brain. We don't have use of the rationals. The kids don't. It's like the coyote, right? Jump off the cliff and you'll still be alive.
Absolutely. And I was riding around on my Schwinn banana seat with with no helmet, and we were jumping our bikes off of, like, I mean, it's crazy.
Amazing.
Like the fact that I did endo is amazing.
Yeah. So we're getting a good picture here, and I'm always interested, as you know, the journey on my show is through the lifeline. We look for adversity, we look for setbacks, we look at things that shape, not necessarily define you, but shape you, because you're born the way you are, golden. So it sounds like you had a dad who was encouraging, and you started speaking, opportunity to speak and get rid of that fear. Then you were fearless, kamikaze, mountain climber, and all those kind of crazy things. I just want to share a story with you, because we're trading stories here. That
sure.
when you said about your dad, see, you were I like that part of your story, because you were encouraged. See, I learned to do the same things, but it was more forceful. My dad was a commanding officer in the British forces, then Canadian, my parents being from Fiji and back to India. But my dad became quite a crazy drunk. He passed away a few years ago, and I love him. I got to know his story, but when I was 7, he loved listening to Glenn Campbell and Chet Atkins, some of these guitar players. So he gets me a guitar from Sears, a Sears Roebuck special. Yeah. And he would have these big drinking parties with 30, 40 people and he would literally say, "Tommy, come here," and have me sit in the middle and play guitar. And I was like petrified, man. And then as he got into AA, the last part of this, he would have his cake ceremonies. This is when our home was our home. It all changed at age 12. But one night I remember he did a luau. So he buried a pig in the back, just part of his Fijian upbringing. And we had like lights on in the backyard and a big story. He said, I want you to make a speech. And I'm going like, so I ended up writing something out. And I can't remember it, Zander, but it was about AA and my dad and whatnot. And when I look at your story, I'm seeing threads in it leading to what you're doing today. Okay, there's fearlessness, there's speaking. But I want to just bring that book back into the forefront. Everybody, Zander is a professional counselor as well, but he's written this book called Epic Begins with One Step Forward. There it is. Awesome. Great cover. And by the way, I want you to get it, everybody. And authors get known by not just getting their books, but read it and post a review on Amazon or Goodreads. Those are two good places that helps him get known, and also through the bookstore world. But something happened in the book there that stopped me. I know you alluded to it about your sister. So can you just get into that part of the story?
Absolutely. And it's sort of what happened to my sister. There's kind of a lot. So in 1996, my older sister Lucy was murdered in her apartment in Chicago. And she was 30, I was 28, my younger sister was 25. Um, and, you know, honestly, Tom, there were many things I thought I would deal with in my life, but murder certainly was not one of them. The man who killed my sister, the police had him right away. He hung himself 10 days later in the Cook County prison, which spared my family what would have been a very public trial. Because at the time, my father was a sitting district court judge in Massachusetts. So judge's daughter gets killed, and the man who killed my sister had spent 8 of the prior 10 years in Joliet State Prison, had a 4-page rap sheet. You know,
Wow.
it's the kind of thing that is salacious, and the media was all over.
Yeah.
So luckily, my parents and my sister and I did not have to go through that trial. Through that experience, I discovered that there wasn't a lot of resources for sibling survivors, people who lost their brother or sister. So I actually wrote a book, came out quite a few years ago, called Making Lemonade, Choosing a Positive Pathway After Losing Your Sibling.
Yeah.
And that's been out. People around the world are doing it. And I've spent a lot of time really helping other sibling survivors and trying to raise awareness for sibling survivors, because unfortunately we're the forgotten survivors. People don't ask how we are. They don't think about it. And your sibling relationship is the longest one in your life.
Absolutely. I
And
gotta,
so
I gotta, I gotta jump in there, let you catch your breath. First of all, I want to honor you, man. And I know you have to tell the story over and over, and I just admire you for doing it. I'm sorry for that loss. It doesn't go away, right? When
thank you.
when you write a book, you become what they call an authority. I mean, and the word author is the word authority. So you write this book on the losing a sibling. Where did you get your intelligence for that? Was it through just the experiences? Did you go out and develop some knowledge? How did that look?
You know, I wrote the book about my experience,
Yeah,
and some of the revelations that I had having gone through that. I also reached out and was very grateful that 5 of my friends who lost siblings were nice enough to answer these 28 questions that I put. And so their answers are also in that book, and covering people who and it was just honestly dumb luck, Tom, that I happen to have people who lost siblings from
yeah,
when they were little to adults.
absolutely.
Some people, you know, it'd been many years. One person, it had been 9 months when
Yeah.
they answered the question.
Yeah. Can I just tell you something? First of all, this inspires me because it brings out, it's everybody when listen to this part of the show, because when you hear a story told that you heard from Zander, it actually unlocks things. And that's what's happening in my head right now. That I had on my show not long ago, a gentleman in the UK that unfortunately his son died by suicide. And in the family, there was a family picture of all the siblings. And it wasn't until, because I remember interviewing him and we talked about him a lot and the son, but now you give me a whole perspective. Now I could visualize that picture and go, man, like I have 2 brothers, but how do you be alongside your parents and how do you be alongside each other in this new changed family? Give me one nugget. What advice do you have for somebody, whether it's they lost somebody to suicide or you're unfortunate? What's one thing they can do to start healing as a family or their own mind?
Well, I think what I like to share with people is that we should celebrate the rainbow that was their life, and not just focus on the dot at the end. It's not
Oh, I love
ignoring
that.
it, but the fact of the matter is, my sister was alive for 30 years. There was a lot of fabulous things that she did, and it's so much more, I don't know, rewarding to keep her warm in my heart and think about all of those things. Now, it's not to canonize her. My sister was human. She had, she was my older sister. There were times where she was really mean to me, and I was mean to her, and
Who would be mean to a guy with a bald head who looks like
well,
you?
you would think, but I used to have hair, and but that sibling relationship's always really challenging.
Of course,
I
yeah.
also, but I think another thing that's really important for siblings is it's really hard to see your parents that devastated.
Yeah.
But what happens is everybody gets into this vicious circle of, I want to take care of my mom and dad. They want to take care of me. No one's taking care of themselves. And so no one's actually really kind of moving forward. Everyone's trying to help everyone else. But the fact of the matter is, we all have to go through this process somewhat on our own. I mean, your friends and family are there. You certainly, that's true. But I alone had to figure out how I was getting through this, what I was going to choose to do.
Yeah. I just want to bring it back again. Everybody on the screen, you see Zander Sprague, the name, but you see LPCC, which remarkably through the book, man, and we'll get you into that story because we're headed there. You went and got your education, became a professional or a clinical counselor. I I think I told you that because Zander was telling me about how he's a bike rider and an endurance athlete as well. I think you said
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, and I said that I had a story I wanted you triggered. Well, back in 2018, I did a 2-day ride, 225 kilometers on a bike for cancer, called the Ride to Conquer Cancer up here, and it was an amazing experience, man. I know I didn't even have a bike. A buddy just said his daughter died leukemia 10 years ago. He said, "Would you join the team?" I said, "Sure." And I trained peak condition. Well, it's not about the ride, but the first night after 100K, I slipped in a bathtub in the motel, fell back, cracked a hole in the tub, and got a brain injury. And in fact, as you're looking at me here, I have double vision. My eyes don't move right. And I've been through depression, all that stuff. And why I'm talking about that is I'm linking to what I learned through the last little while about brain science and trauma, which I probably understood more because of my childhood with my father. I became homeless at age 12. But what I'm really interested in is I learned that trauma is when something happens long ago and you can be sitting in a room and you relive it today. You haven't dealt with it. So first of all, going back to your story, how does someone who lost say a sister, how do you deal with those thoughts that keep coming back? I think he touched on it, something about celebrating the good, but just
Well,
give
yeah, I
us.
mean, celebrate the rainbow. The other thing, and I talk about this in the Making Lemonade book, is um, you are going to have those unexpected things in your day and in your week that
Yeah,
remind you of that person. And I'm not going to just say your sibling, but whatever your loss is. And in that moment, I encourage people to see that as this unexpected opportunity to remember, right? So, be it a song, a scent, a place that you go. I think it is hard. It really is. It's gotten easier. It's been 25 years, so it certainly is easier. But when it first happened, um, I I would embrace the fact that I had this opportunity to remember Lucy, that I didn't know I was going to have.
yeah,
And I think it's all in how we phrase stuff. There's sort of this. Um, I was reading a book and called The Diamond Cutter, and was talking about Buddhism. And in Buddhism, there's this idea that I've always really liked, which is things are not necessarily good or bad. It's how we interpret them. So I'll give a perfect example. It's kind of cloudy and it might rain. I can say, oh my gosh, it's going to rain and that's terrible. Or I could say, here in California, we really need the rain. So that's a great thing that it's going to rain. But the fact of the matter is, it being cloudy and it's raining in and of itself is not good or bad. It's how I'm choosing to interpret what that is. And I think that's really true also, on our own epic journeys, right?
Yeah, I love that. And want to jump back in there. Thanks for sharing that. It's a teaching moment, everybody. You heard we can choose. I learned that through my therapy for my brain recovery, that it's a bit of neuroplasticity at work with me, that we're the only species, I believe, that can attach a different meaning to a thought. And it takes a lot of work. And, from my own relationship with my dad, when he passed, I made peace with him because I hadn't seen him for a decade. But it was learning about his childhood and his work as a military guy, and he was a teacher as well at our technology institute. Just understanding that, I started attaching different pictures and meanings to him that were good. And what was funny, Xander, is all of a sudden a flood of memories just started coming in that I just hadn't remembered, because
Yeah.
words I used to describe him were not so good. So I love that. I want to make a bold statement here. You can definitely contradict me if you want, but I'm not sure if people really know how to be alongside somebody who's when they have loss or they know. I just find that people don't know what to do and say.
And I
And
got something for that, Tom. Imagine that.
okay, tell us what you
All
got
right.
for that.
So here's something. There is no miracle sentence that will make it better for me, and I don't have a miracle sentence for you, but that's okay. I think the important part is that we acknowledge the loss. And even though you don't feel that you have the right thing to say, just saying, acknowledging that loss is actually really, really important. My experience and lots of other siblings' experiences, they lose the sibling and everyone asks how the parents are, but no one asks how they are.
Yes.
I started to think that my loss was was somehow less than my parents. And the fact of the matter is, it's different, but it's no less
Absolutely.
significant.
Yeah. No, thank you. I totally get that. I've been through that experience just through somebody I know. Want to take another right turn. My head's going on a journey into the corporate world.
No
Here we
problem.
are. Xander told us earlier that, I'm just looking at my notes here, that you had 20 years in the corporate world. That was really interesting. The threads in your story, you said about being laid off, downsized umpteen times. I mean, what my first major downsizing totally was an impact on my life, my family. And after a while, after 30 years, I decided, I'm going to have to make some changes. I just didn't want to be hostage. So we'll get into what you did from there. The part about leadership, though, I mean, being a leader yourself. So here we are, so let's say COVID times or whatever. We walk into the office as a manager, a supervisor of other people, maybe the CEO at the top. And we have people who are coming into the workforce in different circumstances. Maybe they've had a child who's struggling, maybe they're dealing with mental illness, maybe COVID and the isolation is becoming a challenge. And then the CEO has to stand up there, the leader, and have their game face on, show some empathy, be real. But sometimes what I'm learning from the coaching work I've done, and even my experiences, we walk in with, pardon the language, but blood on our shirts. We have all this stuff some days that come with us from life, and yet we have to put on that, that front and be somebody who maybe can inspire other people. But through this, what we're going to talk about now, the God of enthusiasm. How do you, how, just tell us about the book and anything in it that can help here. How do you be enthusiastic in a time where maybe the world's tough and you're trying to lead people and inspire people?
Well, it's what I call the 97-3 rule. Okay.
Okay.
97%. I really believe that 97% of your day, Tom, is actually really good. And up to 3% isn't so good. Now, obviously, there's some days where you have just a really terrible day, and I'm not going to discount that. But in general, 97% of your day is going well. Look, you woke up this morning. Here we are doing this show. These are good things, right? And yet somehow we all focus on that up to 3% that isn't going right, and somehow forget all the 97.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to take a moment here to tell a super quick story. When I was doing my internship for my licensing, I was working in a high school and a middle school, and I would ask my clients, all right, what's your least favorite subject? A lot of them said math. I totally agree. Math was not my favorite subject. And I said, how would you feel if you got a 97 on your next math test? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. That would be great. I'd be telling everyone, right? And I'm like, would you be complaining about the 3 points you didn't get? Are you kidding? If I got a 97, my parents would be so happy. I'd be so happy, right? And I'm like, exactly. So why are you focusing on the 3% of your day that isn't going right and ignoring the 97 that is?
Totally. Yeah, that's so inspiring. I'm thinking now about my daughter who's in university 4th year, but she played baseball growing up, and I'm thinking now. You put in my head, man, it's a brilliant thought that she was always hard on herself because she wouldn't hit a home run, and then I'm thinking about all the at bats, all the swings she had to do to hit that home run, and yet if we focus on all the swings, it's a downer. But if we focus on that home run or even that hit in the park, man, you totally just changes the way. And she would do that once she focused on what she did that one moment. Everything else went away.
Talking about baseball, Tom. Okay, baseball. You just set this one up for me, and I'm going to get this one out of the park.
Go for it.
In baseball, people make it into the Hall of Fame because they have a lifetime batting average over 300. Now, I'm not going to take away how momentous that is, but that means that they got it right 1/3 of the time. Tom, imagine let's say you're working 9 hours and you only have to get it right for 3 hours every day. And you're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, he's right. And that is so is so such an aha moment. It's so obvious. It's almost like duh. And then I'm thinking now about all the companies. There's this one word out there called innovation, right? Every company, it's a buzzword, but everybody wants to innovate. And
Right.
yet there's companies who just have cultures where you're not allowed to make a mistake. You're not allowed to fail. I know, and that if you have a culture where people can't fail, you can't innovate. Innovation doesn't happen without being able to take risk. And so I'm thinking about that now, right? And it's like what you said. It's like, wow, unbelievable storytelling you're giving us here. So I want to catch up in the story and go now that we've learned about you and the downsizing happened. What I want to ask you here is it's actually based on a study that was done in Canada. I use this sometimes just for fun. The Canadian study that they interviewed 90-year-olds and they said, what are your 3 top regrets? And after all the data came in, the number 1 was didn't risk enough. Yep. Number 2, didn't reflect enough. And number 3, didn't make a big enough contribution or legacy. So now I'm looking at what you're doing, and you can tell us about that. You've got this book. I think you have a company, you do speaking, and you've been nicknamed the God of Enthusiasm. The big question in my mind is why? That turning point, was it the death of your sister that gave you that call to adventure? Was it being downsized? Was it something else? But when you're done with this world, what do you want it to look like? Define that for us.
Well, okay, so kind of multiple questions there, Tom. I think I had been doing the work with sibling survivors kind of on the side, and I kind of had that epiphany that why am I teaching other people's stuff when I have so much that I want to teach? And through my work, I was I discovered that lots of sibling survivors said, well, I tried to go to therapy, but the therapist didn't understand my issues and all of that. And I really believe that in our life, sometimes we hear something repeatedly because we're supposed to do something about it. That's a calling right there. And so I went back to graduate school at 45.
Good for you.
And I had been in university for 22 years, and I certainly knew how to learn. I had to constantly be learning for these new jobs and learn products and turn around and teach it and stuff. But it was, completely new. So I got my master's. I'm like, I'm going to get licensed. I needed
Yes.
1,000 hours of internship hours. I got those. I finished up in February of 2020. I was all excited. I'm going to take the licensing exam. Everything I've told everyone that I'm going to do, I'm going to go out and this is going to be great. I'm going to help people. I'm going to talk in corporations, have seminars, do all this. And then March came and the pandemic hit and all the plans stopped. I couldn't
Yeah.
take the licensing exam. I couldn't go out and speak. I couldn't do any of that. And as I was sitting in my apartment trying to figure out what was going on, again, I had this epiphany that epic begins with one step forward. I've been on so many epic journeys. And I just want to quickly share, I thought about what does epic mean?
Yeah.
Every pilgrimage includes commitment. And I know pilgrimage could invoke somewhat of a religious connotation, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about whatever your epic is. Epic is, look, maybe you want to travel somewhere. Maybe you want to get more education. Maybe you want to run a marathon or something. That's your dream. We need to go out and do it. And I lay out in the book, ways that you can do this. But I think I got here because there are a few things. I want to share what I know. Knowledge unshared is useless. I want people to really go after those things because I set out to write this book, and I wanted it to be an Amazon best-selling book, and it is, and I'm really excited. A lot of work in that kind of vision quest. But whatever your epic is, you really should. You talked about that study where people had regrets they didn't take enough, challenges. Look, I have not been successful in everything I've done. I don't want to make it sound like I was super successful. I'm not. I have failures, but that's all part of the journey, right?
I love that. Everybody a teaching moment about the journey. And it's, I got to say, Matt, and when I qualify people to come on the show, there's very few who don't come on, but I know I pushed you hard on some things, but I don't want to hear about all the success. I want to hear about the failures because that makes you relatable and real, right? Business life isn't a straight line up. And by you doing that, by you saying things like that, man, you become so real to me, and I know to the listeners. I just love it. That's why you're so easy to relate to. One of the things you said about when you're in your clinical work, people, wanting to know, that you've been down that path. It's kind of interesting because I have a couple friends who played professional hockey, and there's mentors and coaches, and we're talking one day, and it's a lot. I said to him, he played for Washington Capitals and the Montreal Canadiens, and he won his first Stanley Cup. He got into the dressing room in Montreal in the dynasty, so the second year.
Yeah.
And he's a Canadian boy, Ryan Walter. And so I had him, interviewed him once. I said, what was the difference? And he said, Tom, when I went into the dressing room in Montreal, he said the word can't didn't exist. He said the word failure, didn't exist. You knew that you just had to get up again. And he said, when we lost in Washington, he said, we blamed the fans, the coaches, the ice, whatever we could find. And he said it was completely different mindset. And I think that's one of the things that you just taught us about mindset, that to be epic, it's one step at a time. You have to be prepared, when there's setbacks, to keep moving forward. This thing about the book, I want to get into that now. Just going to show something. Well, it's going to honor you here. Everybody, I'm going to reveal something for the first time on the show about Zander's great book. So hold up your book again there.
Okay, hold on.
All right. Epic begins with one step forward. All right. We're going to put us back here. So this morning, after reading the book, I did read the book, and I'm actually looking forward to a signed copy. Hint, hint. I bought it. I bought it, but I wrote you a review this morning, and I'm going to put it on the screen, and it's being submitted to Amazon. To everybody who knows this process, you send it, and they say thank you for sending, and then they say okay, it's being posted.
Right.
And I titled the review "Extraordinary, Purposeful, Informative, and Courageous." Aha, that's epic. The acronym. And so I can barely read this because of my eyes, but it's on the screen, everybody. If you're doing the podcast, you'll hear this. Go find it on Amazon. But I wrote, this book is extraordinary, purposeful, informative, and courageous. Author Sprague tells the story of taking the past meaning of his life, including the murder of his sibling sister, and how he used that to define the meaning of his life. The book has relatable stories, vast content for the reader's own reflection and growth, and heartwarming humility of an average man who became extraordinary. I highly recommend this book. So congratulations. We're going to just put up some fireworks for you there.
All right. Thank you so much. That is, wow. Such high praise. Thank you so much, Tom.
And that is a international review because it's written and posted on Amazon.ca. That'll aggregate for you. But I just want to say, everybody, get the book, give it a rating like that. But there's so much nuggets in it. So as we move to wrap up in a short bit, give us something else about that. What I learned, I went through the journey in the book, everything you said about the sister and what you did, the education, finding a way to help. Give us anything else out of there.
All right. Well, there are two words, Tom, that I think are so essential, not only if you're on your epic journey, but just in general. Okay. Not yet. Not yet is so powerful, so optimistic, because when we're on our epic journeys, not yet should be your companion, should be right next to you. Why? Because not yet says, it's happening, but it hasn't happened quite yet. As I was working on the book, people knew I was working on the book. They're like, is the book out? If I just said no, it's like a stop sign. It just sounds like it's never going to happen. But not yet says I'm working on it, but it's not quite ready. When we're in our life, be it your career, your personal, a relationship, whatever, not yet evokes so much optimism and so much hope, right? There's the things that we all dream of doing. Look, maybe it will never happen, but at least I'm open to the fact that it's possible, the possibility of this happening. And look, I was on a 7-year journey to become a licensed professional clinical counselor. There was a lot of not yet.
Yeah, I bet. When you do your counseling now and with COVID and whatnot, do you do by Zoom or face to face? How's your practice put together?
I'm doing. I was doing Zoom. Actually, right now I'm really focused on the book and trying to get out and speak to corporations and stuff like that.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So why should people get a hold of you, and whether it's for business, say in the business world, what do you bring? What do you talk about? What are some of the things you do to help?
In the business world, I'm talking about, I want to help people to create epic teams and epic workplaces, because if people are generally excited to come into work and are able to tap into their own strengths within your company, you're going to get so much more out of them, right? Look, I'm a talker, not a typer.
Okay.
I love
like
presentations. So I worked for Intel for 5 years, and when I got to go to conferences and I got to talk, or if I was helping out in a booth and I got to sort of barker at the booth to get people to come in and sign up or listen to whatever, I was in my element. And I had a manager who recognized it and said, I got to tap into that more because that's really powerful. And so I want to help companies to, again, create that epic workspace. And if you're a manager, I want to help you find out what makes your team epic and tap into that, because when we're doing the things that come to us naturally, it's really not as hard, and we're actually really excited.
Yeah.
The Clifton Strengths Finder says you should spend 75% of your day in your strengths, right? We're all good. There's things that I'm good at, things I'm not good at. The stuff I'm not good at, I want to try and find someone
Yeah.
else who is good at it.
That's fascinating. My head went on a journey again as you were talking about teaching in the corporate world. I have a relationship with a group of companies out here, and I can't divulge obviously because this what I'm going to tell you is private. But they've known them for a long time. I do some work for them, and they last year was a hard year. They lost a key leader to suicide, and two
Oh,
younger leaders to I think heart attack and some other health issues. And what I was talking to the head of all the companies, and one of the things that came up was, we do so much focus on leadership and on business goals and things, but last year was just it tore us apart because everybody was really close to these people, and so there's this whole need for almost like doing some training or some work on health, wellness, surviving through tragedy, trauma. And that's why I just thought about you again. It's like, well, with this background you have, even with the thread of your sister's story, man, every time you walk into a business classroom, there's people around the table who have threads in their stories with relatable losses. And I'm just going to throw back to you on this when I do coaching, and I was coached this way as a young CEO. I didn't realize that business leaders need to connect what goes on in their personal life, their family life, and their business life. It's the total wheel of life, they call it. And many of them don't see that connection. So if something's gone on at home or whatever, if we're not dealing with that and get the tools, everything at work might fall apart. So everybody, I'd like you to reach out to Zander and check out what he's doing, because I think you're so talented in so many ways. You can bring many pieces to the classrooms for teaching, not just about epic teams.
right. And also, for the individuals, if are like, gosh, I have this epic dream, but I just don't know how to do it. I have tools and resources and, coaching with me to help you plan out and achieve your epic dream, to really make epic choices to have the epic life that you dream of.
Well, you just sent me another journey. I'm going to throw this at you just as a nugget. And if this helps you, man, great. You probably already get this. I was in a position once as a CEO where I used to sit down across the table from gentlemen like you, and we'd be looking for people to come in and coach or do workshops or sometimes retreats. And I remember one day I said to this fella, I said, you know what, we spend so much money on that, but I said, here's the thing. I want whatever you do to be my legacy. And if you can get the people that are sitting in that room with you to see that what you have, they want, but not to make my company great, but that to make their lives great, to make their future great, then that's a home run. So that's what I like about what you said. And, everybody, if you're looking for people to hire, I really believe, Zander, that there's a whole different way of selling or positioning training today, because the millennials, my daughters in that age, they don't give a crap about the company's ROI or bottom line. They want the lifestyle. They want to know, what's this going to do for me? How's this going to attach to my purpose of getting my PhD or doing the reno on my kitchen? Those type of things. So I think you got something there, man. That's pretty powerful. Let's hold the book up again, or you want you to hold the book up again. We'll give one more plug on the book there. I'm going to full screen you. Awesome. So now you get to tell us, where can people go to get a hold of you?
The book is available on Amazon around the world. It's available in most book sites. If you go now to Amazon and you have Kindle, you can download it for free. And if you have questions, comments, whatever, like Tom said, reviews really help me to have more people know about this book. I think, without being too self-aggrandizing, I'm really proud of the book. I think there's a lot of value for people, and I want to help encourage everyone to really step into their epic. You can go to zandersprague.com, get all that information. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and, all of the social media platforms. And, I'd love to hear what people, how the book is helping people or what they think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I'll put that all in the show notes, everybody. And just want to flash it up here again that I have written and posted a 5-star review. So go find it on Amazon.ca when it's up there. And, certainly this is a time to celebrate, a time of the world where we need enthusiasm. So, hey, what's up with the God with enthusiasm? I left it till the end, but who gave you that?
That was that was my mentor Aurora Winter. It just said she said I was the God of enthusiasm because I've known her for over a decade. I've done some classes and workshops with her, and she helped me. She's helping me with this book, but she just said when you get in front of an audience, you put a mic in your hand. She's like, it's just electric. You are the God of enthusiasm because I'm so excited. And I like that because I am enthusiastic.
Yeah.
I want it's contagious. I want people to be.
I love it. I love it. And it's authentic because as you watch the show back, everybody, and you look at the video, you've always got a constant smile. I can tell because your pearly white teeth are always showing, but the smile, but the enthusiasm, no matter what we're talking about, but it's authentic. And there's this aura. I feel it through you, man. I feel the love. I love you and your story. I know that every day you battle your own demons. That's just the way the reptilian brain works, but you bring a whole different perspective to enthusiasm. So I think you deserve that title. And so I want to honor you with a couple things. We're going to full screen me here for a minute.
Okay.
You're probably wondering what the heck's he doing that for? The show's not about him. Well, you're true. Behind me, you see there's an image of, it's actually a challenge coin. The challenge coins were created in World War II, and they were carried by soldiers in their pockets to commit community. When I created the show, I wanted to have an award that only those who come on that have a purposeful story that actually reveal their pain and have done something to help the world. So these are carried, less than 40 people a year get them. They're carried in 17 countries. And by receiving it, you continue to commit to your purpose of what you're doing, your passion, and creating the life you deserve and desire. So welcome to the Quiet Warrior Tribe.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored.
Yeah, I'll be sending it out to you, and I want to get you to give me a picture of that with that big smile, maybe a little video. Also,
Absolutely.
I want to honor you with one other small thing. So hold on. I shouldn't have said small. I mean, these are small words, but they're big meanings. So I do leadership. I write leadership words down as the guest is speaking. You might have seen that. I don't script it. So here's 4 words. Number 1 is energy. Absolutely comes out of you. 2 is enthusiasm. I mean, go figure, but right from the beginning. I wrote this down, the 97%. That is something pretty cool. I just made that up, but you represent, the 97% what we need to be. And the last one is teacher. You're a natural teacher and you have a gift, so keep doing it. So on that note, everybody, find this show, give it a rating. We'll be releasing 2 productions in the near future, a video premiere and the podcast. Subscribe to the Quiet Warrior Show and give this one a high rating because it's been awesome. So on that note, over to Zander for his last epic goodbye for now.
Well, Tom, thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure and an honor to be here. And I just really want to encourage everyone to think about what your epic goals are and go for it. Because life is short. They say we have, one trip around. So why shouldn't we all be out doing what really makes us excited and perhaps scares us? But when it scares us, it's amazing how rewarding it is.
All right. I love it. That is epic. Thank you so much. And I just had a funny thought. We'll have you back again. You know, there's so many men in the world I meet. This is true. I met a guy yesterday. I was coaching his bald head. And every time we talk, we start somehow talking about, so what razor do you use? Or how do you do this? And he said, well, I know I don't do that. I do this with the electric. We should get you back and we should just talk about caring for the bald head.
Oh, absolutely. I could certainly talk for 30 minutes about how to take care of the beautiful head.
Well, we'll do that. Listen, I'll have you back again. Thanks for being on the Quiet Warrior Show.
You bet. Thank you.
Everybody, find that true purpose, like you've heard from Zander. Live with passion and live the life that you deserve and desire.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca